"Are you always this bold, or just with strangers?" she whispered after I kissed her in front of a crowd. I didn't know her name. She turned out to be a billionaire with an enemy who doesn't forgive, and that moment, it pulled me into a world I was never meant to enter. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, have you ever stepped into a situation that changed your life instantly? And where are you watching from? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real emotional stories. Let's begin. My name is Ethan Brooks. I'm 34, a mechanic on the East Side, and a single father to a 7-year-old girl who believes sprinkles are a life principle, not a dessert choice. Most days, my life is simple. Work, home, Lily, repeat. And honestly, I like it that way. That Sunday, the city felt like spring had finally decided to stay. The plaza was full, music near the fountain, people laughing, sunlight reflecting off everything just a little too brightly. Lily stood on the bench beside me, holding 2 ice cream cones and negotiating like a lawyer. "Dad, this one has fewer sprinkles." "They're the same. They're emotionally different." I almost smiled. Then I heard it. A man's voice, sharp, controlled, just loud enough to cut through everything else. I looked up. Across the plaza, a woman stood facing him. Early 30s, dark hair, simple but expensive dress. She held her bag close, like it gave her something steady to grip. The man stood too close, talking with his hands, not to her, at her, like she was something to prove a point with. "Why is she crying?" Lily asked quietly. I didn't answer. I watched the woman press her lips together, holding something back. Not weakness, something stronger, something practiced. The crowd around them was doing what crowds do, watching, pretending not to. I set the ice cream down. "Stay here," I told Lily. She didn't argue. She just nodded, that small, serious nod she uses when she understands something matters. I crossed the plaza. No plan, just that familiar calculation, act or walk away. I'd learned a long time ago, walking away has a cost too. When I reached them, the man barely glanced at me. "You always do this. Cold, distant, like you're better than everyone." The woman said nothing. I stepped beside her. "Sorry, I'm late." For a second, she just stared at me. Confusion. Then something shifted. "I'm glad you made it," she said quietly. The man frowned. "Who are you?" I ignored him, looked at her instead. "You okay?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I am now." That was enough. I turned slightly toward him. "You should go." He laughed under his breath. "You don't get to—" "You should go," I repeated, same tone. Something in that must have landed wrong for him, or right. The crowd had gone quiet. He looked between us, trying to regain control of a situation that had slipped. And that's when I made the decision I still can't fully explain. I reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and kissed her. Not for show, not aggressive, just enough to end the moment. Everything froze. When I pulled back, I met her eyes for half a second. There was a question there. Was that okay? She didn't step away. Behind me, Lily's voice cut in, completely unimpressed with the drama. "Dad, the ice cream is melting." I exhaled slowly. The man looked from me to her to Lily, like the whole scene had stopped making sense. "This isn't over," he muttered. Then he walked away. Just like that. Gone. The woman let out a breath she'd been holding too long. "I'm sorry," I said. "That was a lot." She touched her lips, still slightly stunned. Yes, it was. Lily walked up beside me, holding both cones. "I'm Lily," she said. "My dad does this sometimes." "Does what?" I asked. "Helps people before thinking." The woman looked at her, then laughed softly. "I'm Melinda." "Ethan." We stood there for a moment, the noise of the plaza slowly returning around us. She studied me more carefully now. "You don't do that often, do you?" she asked. "No," I said. "First time." Another small smile. Then it faded, just slightly. "I think," she said, choosing her words, "I may need your help again." I should have walked away right then, but something in her voice told me this wasn't just about what happened here. This was bigger. And somehow, I was already part of it. So I nodded. "Okay," I said. And that was the moment everything changed. We ended up sitting at a small table on the edge of the plaza. That wasn't the plan. I figured I'd step in, get her out of a bad moment, and go back to my daughter and melting ice cream. But somehow, 5 minutes later, I was across from her, Lily quietly focused on finishing both cones like it was a timed mission. Madeline sat with her hands folded, composed again, but not completely. "I owe you an explanation," she said. "You don't," I answered. "He was out of line, that's enough." She studied me for a second, like she wasn't used to people not asking questions. "He's persistent," she said carefully, "and connected." "Connected how?" She hesitated, then reached into her bag and pulled out a simple black card. No design, just a name. I looked down. Madeline Carter, CEO, Carter Global Infrastructure. I let out a quiet breath. "Right," I said. "That explains the suit." A faint smile touched her lips. "It usually does." I leaned back in the chair, processing. A few minutes ago, she'd just been a woman in trouble. Now she was someone who probably owned half the buildings around us. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you didn't hesitate," she said, "and because he saw it." I frowned slightly. "Preston doesn't like losing control," she continued, "and what happened back there, it changes how he sees things." "Meaning?" "Meaning he'll assume I've already moved on," she said, "and if he believes that, it affects decisions he's about to make." There it was, not just personal, strategic. "So you need him to believe that," I said. "Yes." I nodded slowly. "So what are you asking?" She met my eyes directly this time. "There's a dinner," she said. "Industry, investors, people he works with. I need you to come with me." "As your boyfriend?" She didn't flinch. "As someone I'm seeing." I let out a short breath, almost a laugh. "I'm a mechanic," I said. "I don't exactly blend into rooms like that." "You'd be surprised," she replied. Lily looked up mid-bite. "Dad cleans up nice." I gave her a look. "You're not helping." "I'm helping her," she said, completely serious. Madeline smiled again, but there was tension behind it now. This mattered to her more than she wanted to show. "It's one evening," she said. "You don't have to pretend to be anything you're not. Just be there." I rubbed my jaw, thinking. This wasn't my world. I liked knowing exactly what I was fixing at the end of the day. Engines made sense. People like her world, it didn't. But then I thought about the guy in the plaza, the way he talked, the way he looked at her like she was something to dismantle. "You said he's connected. That kind of man doesn't stop at words." Her silence confirmed it. "And this dinner helps you stay ahead of him?" "Yes." I nodded slowly. "So what are you asking?" She met my eyes directly this time. "There's a dinner," she said. "Industry, investors, people he works with. I need you to come with me." "As your boyfriend?" She didn't flinch. "As someone I'm seeing." I let out a short breath, almost a laugh. "I'm a mechanic," I said. "I don't exactly blend into rooms like that." "You'd be surprised," she replied. Lily looked up mid-bite. "Dad cleans up nice." I gave her a look. "You're not helping." "I'm helping her," she said, completely serious. Madeline smiled again, but there was tension behind it now. This mattered to her more than she wanted to show. "It's one evening," she said. "You don't have to pretend to be anything you're not. Just be there." I rubbed my jaw, thinking. This wasn't my world. I liked knowing exactly what I was fixing at the end of the day. Engines made sense. People like her world, it didn't. But then I thought about the guy in the plaza, the way he talked, the way he looked at her like she was something to dismantle. You said he's connected. That kind of man doesn't stop at words. Her silence confirmed it. And this dinner helps you stay ahead of him? Yes. I glanced at Lily. She was watching us both now, quietly, like she understood more than she should. Is this dangerous? I asked. Madeline held my gaze. It could become complicated. I nodded once. That was enough honesty for me. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay? One dinner, I added. That's it. Of course. Lily leaned toward her. You smell nice. I sighed. Lily. What? It's true. Madeline smiled softly, and this time it didn't sound forced at all. For a moment, it felt normal. Too normal. But I'd lived long enough to know moments like that don't last when something bigger is moving underneath. Madeline stood, adjusting her bag. I'll send you the details. I stood too. I'll be there. She hesitated for just a second, then said, more quietly, Thank you for earlier. I nodded. Anyone would have done the same. She looked at me like she knew that wasn't true. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the spring crowd like she'd never been part of it. I watched her go. Then Lily tugged my sleeve. Dad? Yeah? She tilted her head. You're going to mess this up, aren't you? I looked down at her. Probably. She sighed like she'd expected that. Try not to, she said. I almost smiled, but something in my chest felt different, because deep down, I already knew this wasn't going to stay simple, not even close. I parked 2 blocks away from the building, not because I had to, because valet made me uncomfortable. My truck didn't belong in places like this. Glass towers, polished marble, people who wore confidence like it was part of the dress code. So I left it under a street light and walked the rest of the way. The suit I wore was the only one I owned. Dark, simple, still fit well enough. I'd checked that twice. Inside, everything was quiet in that expensive way. Muted conversations, soft lighting, people who didn't need to raise their voices to be heard. A woman in black approached me almost immediately. Mr. Brooks? She asked. That's me. Ms. Carter is upstairs. Of course she was. The elevator was glass. As it climbed, the city stretched out below me, streets I knew from ground level suddenly looking distant, like they belonged to someone else. I wasn't nervous. I'd been in harder places than this. Different kind of danger, though. The doors opened, and there she was. Madeline stood near the entrance to the dining room, dressed in deep blue, her hair pinned back, posture precise, but not cold, not the way she'd been in the plaza. She looked in control, but when her eyes found mine, something softened. You came, she said. I said I would. Her gaze flicked over my suit for half a second, and I caught the smallest hint of relief. Good, she said quietly. Stay close. That wasn't part of the agreement, but I nodded anyway. The dinner was smaller than I expected, about a dozen people, the kind who introduced themselves with companies instead of names, investors, lawyers, a city official. And at the far end of the table, him, Preston. He was already watching us. I felt it before I fully saw it. Madeline didn't react, not outwardly. She moved through the room like she owned every inch of it, calm, composed, directing conversations without seeming to. I stayed quiet, listening, watching. That was something I'd learned a long time ago. People reveal more when you don't rush to fill the silence. Halfway through dinner, one of the men started talking about a port expansion project. Complicated, expensive, political. I asked one question, just one, and suddenly the tone shifted. He wasn't talking at the table anymore, he was talking with me. Madeline noticed. I didn't look at her, but I knew. Preston did too. After dessert, when people broke into smaller conversations, he finally approached. "Interesting," he said, stopping beside me. "She goes from me to you." I met his gaze, calm. That's how it works sometimes. He smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "What do you do exactly?" "Mechanic." He let out a quiet breath through his nose. "Right." His eyes sharpened slightly. "And before that?" There it was. Not curiosity, a probe. I didn't answer right away. Behind him, I could feel Madeline watching without turning her head. "I've done a few things," I said. He studied me longer this time, measuring, trying to find an edge. "She's complicated," he said, lowering his voice. "She'll keep you at a distance and make you think it's your fault." "Thanks for the advice." I didn't give him anything else, didn't react, didn't engage. After a moment, he stepped back, like the conversation had already told him something he didn't like. Good, let him wonder. Later in the elevator, Madeline finally looked at me. "You handled that well," she said. "It wasn't difficult. He usually is." I shrugged. "I've met worse." She studied me carefully now. "Where?" she asked. I leaned back slightly against the glass wall, watching the city slide past behind her. "The army," I said. "Then some other things." "What kind of things?" I met her eyes. "The kind you don't put on resumes." Silence settled between us. Not uncomfortable, just aware. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened, but neither of us moved right away. "This was supposed to be one evening," I said. She nodded slowly. "I know," but she didn't step away. And neither did I, because we both understood something now. This wasn't just an arrangement anymore, and whatever came next wasn't going to be simple. Preston didn't wait long. Men like him never do. The first sign came on a Wednesday. Dale, the owner of the shop, called me into his office after closing. He didn't look angry. That would have been easier. He looked careful. "Ethan," he said, folding his hands on the desk, "I've had a couple calls this week, suppliers." I leaned back slightly. "And?" "They're asking questions," he said, "about quality, about your work specifically." That got my attention. "They're not pulling out," he added quickly. "Not yet, but it's strange." I nodded slowly. I already knew. "Yeah, I know who it is." Dale watched me. "You want to tell me?" "Not yet," I answered. "Give me a few days." He didn't push. That was one of the reasons I respected him. I stepped outside, the evening air cool, and called Madeline. "He's started," I said. She didn't ask who. "I thought he might," she replied, voice steady. "What did he do?" "Supply pressure," I said, trying to make it look like I'm a problem. A pause. "I can make a few calls," she said. "No," I cut in. "That's not how this works." Silence. Then quieter. "Then how does it work?" I leaned against my truck, looking up at the fading sky. "It works by finding something he doesn't want found." Another pause. "Do you think there is?" she asked. "I think men like him always leave something behind." That was something I knew for certain. I'd seen it too many times. "Tell me what you know about his business. Boards, partners, anything that matters." She exhaled slowly. "I'll have my legal team look." "Good." We hung up. I sat there a minute longer, letting everything settle. I hadn't planned to step this far in, but once someone starts pushing, I don't step back. Madeline called me 11 days later. I found something, she said. Her office was exactly what I expected, and not at all. Top floor, glass walls, the entire city stretched out behind her like it belonged to her. But she didn't sit behind the desk. She sat across from me at the table, equal. She laid out documents. Meridian Transit Partners, logistics firm. On paper, clean. And off paper? Payments to a consulting firm tied to Preston. How many? 3 that we can prove. I nodded slowly, scanning the pages. And the connection? She replied. He sits on 2 boards that influence contracts involving them. I leaned back. Not illegal on the surface, but close enough. Close enough to pull. You haven't used this before, I said. No, she answered. He wasn't a threat. I looked up at her. He is now. She didn't argue. That told me everything. I tapped the file lightly. This is pressure, I said, but it's not enough by itself. What do you need? She asked. I hesitated for a second, then decided. There's something you should know about me. Her expression didn't change, but her attention sharpened. After the Army, I continued, I worked private contracts, federal clients, protection detail, investigations, things like that. Understanding flickered in her eyes. You know how to deal with people like him, she said. I know how they think, I corrected. A small difference, but an important one. And right now, I added, he thinks he's in control. She leaned forward slightly. And you don't? I shook my head. I think he's already made a mistake. Her voice dropped. Which one? I met her eyes. He made it personal. That was the line. Once someone crosses it, the rules change. Not because I want them to, because they do. Madeline studied me for a long moment. Then, quietly, why are you helping me? I didn't answer right away. I thought about the plaza, about Lily asking why no one was helping, about the way Preston had looked at her. And then I said the truth. Because he's trying to hurt people who don't deserve it. A pause. And? She asked. I held her gaze. And because you didn't ask anyone to save you. That landed somewhere deeper than I expected. She looked down briefly, then back up. Okay, she said. Not agreement, trust. And just like that, we were no longer reacting. We were moving first, and Preston had no idea what was coming. The board meeting was on a Tuesday morning. Madeline didn't ask me to come, so I came anyway. I sat in the lobby, still in my work clothes, gray t-shirt, jeans, hands a little rough from the shop. People passed by without looking twice. That was fine. I wasn't there for them. I was there in case she needed someone who didn't measure her in numbers. Upstairs, the meeting lasted longer than it should have. I imagined the questions, the careful tone, the polite concern that wasn't really concern. Reputation, timing, optics. People like that don't attack directly. They wrap it in professionalism. When the elevator finally opened, she stepped out. Composed, but not untouched. Her eyes found me immediately. You drove here? She asked. Lunch break, I said. That almost made her smile. How did it go? She exhaled slowly. I walked out. I nodded once. Okay. I may have made it complicated. It already was. That earned a real reaction, a quiet laugh that didn't belong in a place like this. She stepped closer. I told them about you, she said. Yeah? I told them you weren't strategy. I held her gaze. What did I call you? Her voice softened just slightly. The first real thing I didn't try to control. That hit harder than anything Preston had tried. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she shook her head a little like she didn't trust herself to stay in that moment too long. There's a dinner tonight, annual stakeholder event. Big one? 400 people. I let out a quiet breath. That's a lot of opinions. Always is. She hesitated, then, more quietly, "Come with me." Not as a request this time, not as a deal, something else. I thought about Lily, about how she'd looked at me that day in the plaza. "Don't mess this up." "Okay," I said. The ballroom was exactly what you'd expect. Lights, glass, voices layered over each other, people who knew how to be seen. But when Madeline walked in, everything shifted. Because she didn't hide it. She didn't create distance or leave room for interpretation. She walked in with me, hand on my arm, and she didn't let go. I felt the room notice. Of course it did. Rooms like that always notice. We moved through it together, and for once, she didn't try to manage every angle, didn't adjust every perception. She just existed in it, in the center of it. And when it was time for her speech, she stood in front of all of them, investors, partners, people who thought they had a say in her life, and delivered it the way she always did. Clear, precise, unshakable. But at the end, she paused. I've spent a long time believing control was the same as strength, that keeping things separate, professional, personal, was the safest way to build something that lasts. The room went still. I was wrong. That landed. She looked at me. Not long, just enough. "Some things don't need to be managed," she continued. "They need to be real." Silence. Then she stepped back. No explanation, no defense, just truth. And somehow that was stronger than anything else she could have said. Later that night, the city felt quieter. We walked back to the plaza. Same place, same path, but everything was different. No crowd, no noise, just the soft sound of water from the fountain and the glow of streetlights. "This is where it happened," she said. "More or less." She turned toward me. "The first time you asked if I was okay?" "I remember." "No one asks that," she said. "Not in my world." I didn't answer. She didn't need one. For a second, she just stood there, like she was letting something settle inside her that had been moving for a long time. Then I reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her face, the same way I had before, but this time there was no audience, no reason, no strategy, just us. And when I kissed her, she leaned into it. No hesitation, no calculation, just choice. When we pulled back, she smiled, soft, real. Nothing guarded left in it. "Lily is going to have opinions," she said. I nodded. She always does. A small pause. "Are they good opinions?" she asked. "Mostly," I said. "But you should know there's a balloon poodle named Margaret you'll have to respect." She laughed quietly. "That seems fair." We stood there a moment longer, the city moving around us like it always had. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just steady. And for the first time in a long while, everything felt exactly where it was supposed to be. Because sometimes the biggest changes don't start with plans. They start with one simple decision: to step in, to stay, and to choose someone for real. Thanks for watching. If this story meant something to you, please like and subscribe for more unforgettable stories about love, resilience, and second chances.